Welcome back to another episode of the Philosophy of Chillin. I'm your host, Dylan to Connect. And the last episode, I left off on explaining how I have had so many topics in my head about the things that I would love to discuss, or just have the chance to think through in a more in-depth fashion. And again, there were so many things that went to the surface level of my head, but the one thing that stuck in regards of what I needed to talk about today is something that I actively have to practice even today. And it's a constant learning cycle. And I get hesitant sometimes to talk about the topics like this that I'm going to talk about today, because there are so many perspectives that can have contrary comments to what I have to say. But in everything I observe, the principles that I know to be true still shine through. So I know that the messages and the ideas that I have are not worthless, but they are worth having another perspective. So with that being said, I wanted to talk about patience. And in talking about this, there are so many complexities underneath it that different communities have tried to explain or relate to. So before I even get into anything, take away what you need to, because what I'm about to convey is my experience and how I recognize it to be true in the things that I observe within this life too. So just kicking off everything, I wanted to kind of highlight the question or the understanding that I'm trying to unpack within this. Because patience is it's a multi-layered complex principle. Not necessarily ideology, but it's something that has to be practiced for it to be true. And that's why I wanted to first say the statement that patience is not waiting. There is a huge difference. Waiting is when you know that something is supposed to be coming within a time frame. It's been expressed to you, you know exactly what's coming to you and when it's supposed to arrive for you. Waiting can be considered a surface level thing because there's not much that involves that is involved within the situation. Like everything is expressed when it comes to waiting. Like everything should be, if not itemized, at least in the practice of being realized, if that makes sense. Whereas patience, in some aspects, you don't know nothing. Patience and what I've experienced to be is the situation one can find themselves in when they don't know everything about the other entity involved. And you know something is coming, but you don't know when, you don't know how, and there are more questions than understanding. And for me, I know that patience, another huge difference between patience and waiting is the fact that in waiting, you can be agitated, especially if something that is agreed upon doesn't meet the mark of what was initially said or, what was communicated. But in patience, you get frustrated over things completely different. Waiting, you said you were going to come here, or this was going to get here at this time. Okay. Patience is, okay, I don't know why this is happening. I know something is supposed to be occurring, but it pulls on my emotions in a more challenging way. Because I can get frustrated, I can get agitated, but past that waiting period or past those surface level emotions, there's something deeper that I know to be true that I'm still having to have patience and exude. And I want to provide a scenario or an example that kind of helps me explain where I'm trying to go in really answering the question or addressing the question of how can you get past the emotions that one feels in waiting for something to understand the patience that is needed or the patience that needs to be executed so that I'm not misaligning myself with what I know is supposed to be coming. And this is a vulnerable moment for me because I would rather tell nobody nothing and be on the same page with the God that I recognize and be okay. I really don't care what anybody else has to say. I understand you did your research. I understand you have held true to what discipline you have for you in the professional or spiritual elements that you've executed within your own life and have held true. But as I go into this topic and many others, it's not from a place that is trying to entertain or disrespect your version of these topics in your own life. This is just what I'm observing and experiencing within my own. So I expect you to have something to say, whether it be negative, positive, what have you. But what I'm trying to pull out, not just from this episode, but from just doing this platform and staying dedicated to it, I'm just trying to pull out value that I recognize to be true and and in hopes that it will help you. So, how do you experience the emotions and situations that can be associated with waiting, and progress that to recognizing the elements of patience that you either have to continue to work through or that you need to exude within your own situation? And this is a question that I constantly ask myself too. Because again, waiting is almost seasonal, like it's temporary, because you know that whatever has been previously expressed has a time frame that has to be met. But patience, there's no there's 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 a gap in understanding, and you you find yourself trying to feel it, and that's where like feel, like Fill, like feel it, you try to fill that gap, but it's above you. And here's an example. As we speak, we are coming to maybe 1 year of consistency on the platform of the philosophy of Chillin. When I started this platform, I lost my job that I got out immediately out of college. That job was in alignment with what I know to be true for my life purpose. And it was going to be the foundation of just how I progressed professionally. And now being here today, I can say that what I knew to be true within that phase and what I know to be true now are elements of elements of development that has grown my patience. And what I mean by that is I always try to align my thinking, my actions, and the words that I say with the spiritual guidance that I go to. There are so many different categories for religion in general. And in those spaces, how you articulate God can sometimes be scrutinized. But in my life, I can listen to opposing opinions, but still understand the principle where that godly guidance resides. And instead of paying attention to the scrutiny, I pay attention to the principality. And that has built a foundation of understanding within me that helps me channel the things that I need to say appropriately as my body catches up to the actions that need to be done. So, going back to patience, I am in a space now where I've lost my job. have been blessed with other opportunities. But even with the opportunities that I've been blessed with to grow in, to further develop, and still stay in my alignment of what I have deposited from my godly guidance, even considering all of those aspects, I sometimes even find myself still asking, like, I know I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to, but when are the blessings coming to me that will help me materialistically? Because let's be transparent and vulnerable. I went from being well off financially, being responsible in obtaining not just high yield savings, but enough to where I could still invest within the independent projects that I knew were aligned with where God told me to be. And that provided mental security for me. I can do what I'm supposed to do, and even financially, I'm good. As long as I'm still learning, growing, and executing, and managing not just myself, but the resources that I've been blessed with a sound mind and body, I just have to keep doing this. But then that's where patience comes in, because in order for you to recognize that you even have it, you have to be in a situation that's challenging. And it sometimes takes so long for somebody to recognize it and practice it that it takes away from the perspective of the situation that you're even in. I'm saying this because I'm experiencing it. I went from working I think it was a private company, a private tech consulting. I went from working in a private tech consulting company to not knowing anything of what I would be doing next, to then be blessed with the opportunity to stay in alignment with my industry, but be presented with an opportunity to do things differently. And it opened my world to skill sets and people that I otherwise probably wouldn't have encountered. And in these spaces, I've been giving my time, giving my resources for almost nothing if I were to compare it to what I was getting materialistically previously. Like even now, what the income for my financial heads, my left-brained people, even for the income that I'm generating now, it's not even half of what I used to make. And that can be frustrating and cause anxiety, depression. But in the midst of this season, every emotion that I felt in regards of frustration, in regards of impatience, in regards of waiting for the next thing to fill what I had lost previously, it is as if I'm reminded in the things that I would do for free, that I still do for free, even outside of my paid opportunities. it's not about how it feels me materialistically. It's about how it aligns with me spiritually and where I am supposed to be. Because patience for me has been knowing that I can look somewhere else than where I am currently. But spiritually, I have been told to stay in this space and continue to develop and grow and maintain myself, utilizing the skills that I was employing before in a season of scarcity. And it has revealed within me just how great a difference there is between waiting and patience. Because in being patient, let me tell you, I still don't know what God has in store for me. I don't know where my next turn will be. But I know that there is something coming. I know in my heart when I wake up and I get filled by the souls that I'm impacting or the people that I am encountering, it makes my day to be able to say, I helped that person get further in a vision that they saw for themselves, and that has helped me. Seeing how someone receives my blessings from their perspective reveals a whole new window for me on what it means to not necessarily waiting to leave, but waiting for that next opportunity that will help me continue to feed into their entities and what has already been, and the foundation that's already been laying the groundwork. I hope that makes sense. Because essentially, the patience is, even if we're not talking about a physical opportunity or tangible community, even internally, the patience can look like you talking to a person and you know for a fact they don't have the full story. They don't have a true understanding. But even in having that conversation and recognizing something, it shows me that, okay, they may not be entirely where I am today, but I know that if I stay patient in recognizing where they are now versus where they could be, it at least gives me excitement to just find out and see. Like, I mean, you sit there and you're able to calculate everything. Like, you're able to just say, dang, I'm not going to get frustrated with you because I waited and you still didn't exude the actions or the verbal recognition that I had expected you to. But once those emotions have been not necessarily cast aside, because it's still going to stay with you. But even though those emotions have been felt, I can go a little bit deeper and understand that the reason that I still support you, the reason that I'm still able to see light in you Even if you're talking about something that isn't necessarily true, whether it's a comment directed straight towards you or a comment that is said around you. And at least for me, I've learned that I'm an empath. So even if I know someone is not talking directly to me about something, or they mention a topic and it's around me, I can also feel their energy. And I can say, okay, well, you were trying to be slick and not necessarily saying it directly, but you said it in earshot around me to see what I would react and respond to. But the patience showed me that even though I recognize that to be true, I still know that I can still see growth in you. And I can still do the things that I know I'm supposed to do within my entity and body, and don't necessarily have to respond to you. But I can still be around you, focusing on my growth, and then watching to see how yours plays out too. And that type of patience is what has awakened an awareness within me on how to articulate my ideology. Because at the end of the day, the frustration is never going to go away, especially if you don't get to say what you really want to say. But at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about the type of vessel that you've committed to be within actuality. And for me, regardless of my surroundings, regardless of the pressures around me, I've recognized that I'm more committed to exuding patience on the things that were God given to me. Whether that be guidance, choices, personally, financially, professionally, it doesn't matter. Romantically, I have no problem saying no to anything if God don't tell me that's something I need to do. It might be hard to, oh, believe me, because internally, on some sort of level, I can also be a people person because I understand emotion. I understand it before I'm able to articulate it. And that's frustrating too. But the patience that I've grown to aim to exude shows me that I can recognize all those things to be true. That's cool. But at the end of the day, how am I using that acknowledgement to continue to stay in alignment? Because I can be frustrated and I can make decisions that I know don't necessarily go with the purpose that I know. And I can feel all the pressures. And in waiting, maybe there's a timeline that I've created to where it's like, look, it makes sense for this to happen at this time. So if it doesn't reach its execution or its fruition in the time frame that I have given it, I can walk away and say I tried. I did my due diligence, but this situation I got to get out of it. And I would be materialistically, on the surface level, be right in those actions. But for me, it's not about that. I don't do the things that I do because this is just what I want to do. No. What I want to do is be able to live peacefully, financially free, in abundance that helps me give to other people in the ways that I would hope people would be generous enough to give to me. So I stay here because it aligns with where I need to be spiritually. And that is the patience that then kicks in for me to recognize, like, hey, this has to go somewhere. Because even if I feel like I'm at my lowest, even if it gets worse or below it, it's the fact that, okay, mentally, am I able to see the growth in me? Physically, is this tiring? Maybe. But where do I get that energy? How does it feed me spiritually? That is what then transfers the understanding and the emotions from waiting to understanding and recognizing the power of patience. And that's what saves me from allowing the emotions and the frustrations in waiting to take a beat and say, okay, it did not happen in the time frame that I needed it to. So what can I do? I mean, shoot, it's not like I'm doing the things that I'm doing irresponsibly. That's not what I'm falling back on. That's not my foundation. The word that I gave to somebody on this earth is still the words that I uphold and aim to still carry out and to be true to. But if you have me in a situation where I'm experiencing constant pressure, well, what you want me to do? I can only do with the resources that you give me. So if those resources, those friendships, those relationships are not giving, well, then there's only one way to look at it, essentially. Where is the core value in you that is telling you whether this is something in alignment with you or something that you're forcing yourself into? Because the patience is real for me, because even in a situation where materialistically everything is depleting, I know for a fact I'm helping somebody and I know this is where I'm supposed to be. Spiritually, I don't have any type of gut feeling that this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. But when I know that my gut is not in alignment with a situation, a predicament, a person, oh, it'll tell me, boy. And if I don't listen, I'll feel the real effects of depletion that actually aims to take me out of the game. And that difference is what I'm trying to speak to. Because there can be your expectation that's not being met within your patience. But you know it's patience because you know that you're doing everything that you can rightfully that has you not necessarily fighting yourself internally. You're sitting peacefully. And there's a difference with that between when you're actually internally frustrated, you know this is not it for you, you know this is not where you're supposed to be, but you force yourself in the situation or stay because you don't feel like having those emotions of waiting, not knowing. And it's actually hurting you because when you wake up every day, there's nothing actually filling you. Filling. Like when you wake up, you know it's something that's actually causing you to feel depleted in every aspect of your entity. Spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially. Like, I mean, financially, it could be providing you what it need to. I mean, that's cool. But everything else is out of whack. So it makes you question a little bit of everything, especially if you're given more and more opportunities. Because now, let's talk about your stress level. But you know what? That's a whole nother episode. But seriously, and that's what I found my patience in and how I've recognized it to be true because there's a level of peace that comes with it too. Like, I know for a fact that something is happening. I can't put my finger on it, and I can only manage what I have around me in order for me to get to that next level. I don't know when it's happening. I've had to release the control, but I know that internally my soul is peaceful. My soul gets anxious when I'm looking for things outside of what's around me immediately, when I know what's around me immediately is in alignment for me. Does that make sense? Like, are y'all getting this? Like, is this helping in understanding? Whenever y'all get comfortable to, I know y'all will drop it in the comments, but this is what my mind goes through because there have been so many times where I felt like I wanted to give up. And that's where that waiting feeling ends for me. When I start thinking of other solutions or other routes that I could take and go through, and then it hits me, okay, I can do that. But how much time and energy is that wasting? When I know it's not something that I'm really supposed to do, but I'm only doing it because I've reached my human limitation. And that patience for me is a tap into a spiritual reality that, okay, yeah, maybe the situation ain't what you would love for it to be. But if you are really going to say that you are a spiritual entity and that you are doing the work, then you have to wait and see. And that waiting becomes patience because you know it's coming. But it's not in your control or power to know everything. But what you do have to continue to hone in and focus on are the elements of yourself that are developing within that season of waiting. Because the waiting aspect is temporary. The patience is permanent. Because even if you get what you've been asking for, there's still going to be another situation where you have to apply it again in a different aspect. Whether it be, again, talking to someone, getting another level up or a surprise in what you're already doing, because you don't know where it's coming from. So you just know, okay, how do I develop even in this strenuous season? And that's where the patience comes in, because you're still growing, you're still learning, you're still developing. It's just pulling for you to do that in situations where you had no control to be in to begin with. And that's okay if it's in alignment with what your God had to say. So, in trying to answer the question of how to delineate from just feeling your emotions in terms of waiting and being able to recognize and exude patience within your own life. Well, there are different elements to it for the individual that is trying to use it. It looks different. But one has to be able to recognize the principality and the difference. There's a reason why patience is associated with your spirituality, because it takes more than just you to be able to endure it. You can't feel the gap that you feel when you're practicing your patience. You can't make the other person understand you in that moment. You can't convince them to do that if they're not already in the mindset. And once that waiting limitation has been met, then what do? That shows you how you actually walk within your patience. What levels do you take within your speech or your actions? What do you consider within your decisions? Because I know for me, I just want to help and be able to live peacefully. That may be a big ask in this country, I'm just saying. But internally, I've never felt a sense of worry. My soul has been so peaceful, but my mind has been running. And that's how I know the difference between what I'm experiencing. When my mind is telling me, but what about this? What about this? What about this? My left brain is arguing with my right brain and everything else is going on. That waiting, that insinuates the frustration. But even with all of this happening, internally my soul would just be sitting like, you did a great job today. That was good. Meeting that person was interesting. That was a great conversation. I don't think you would have had that if you would be doing something differently. So then I get lost in the actions and the developing. And then I look up and see, okay, well, this has grown within me. Someone recognized something and articulated it to me. And that helped me put into perspective the things that I'm feeling. So even if the situation is challenging, There's still other entities of things that I can't control that are filling me within this season. And that's how I know, okay, my spirit is calm, so I know something is happening. I'm continuing to develop. I'm continuing to develop. I'm continuing to grow. And I'm continuing to put my best foot forward in making sure that I'm not just reassessing how I'm thinking, but how I'm presenting myself in other people's lives and how that's been impacting. And that just shows me that, okay, even if I'm past my physical, mental limitations, there's still something developing to where that patience is now kicking in to show that I know this isn't everything. I know that this is growing into something. And as long as I continue to develop and continue to reach the highest potential that I want to, mentally, physically, spiritually, things around me will align themselves to be where they are supposed to. It's going to take more than just me. But at the end of the day, I know I can't force that reality. And if I try to, it's going to put more strain on me internally. Because at least now, I can sit back and say, internally, I've never felt a level of uncertainty. From the day that I lost my job to today, that even on the phone when the person was saying, oh, hey, yeah, we just gonna have to let you go, my soul said, okay, that's cool. Your loss, but you'll know soon. Mentally, I'm like, okay, well, shoot, I was planning this. I was trying to continue investing in this. This is going to help this person out. I know that my foundation is laid because of how I calculate and manage the things that I've been blessed with. I don't even make materialistic decisions for myself. Like the studio that I have, I didn't even get that for me. I got that for the people around me so that they could continue to grow in spaces that they feel comfortable. That was a spiritual download. So even now with the stress that I'm feeling mentally, logistically, soulfully, it's still chilling. It's still sitting peacefully. Like, it's cool. We had to go through worse before. And I'm like, okay, for sure. Let me learn how to continue to grow. But the season isn't depleting me. It's been filling me since the get-go. And I could have made decisions that didn't align with what I knew to be true spiritually. But I didn't. So even if I'm past my waiting period and have now transitioned into my patience and am still executing it, it don't even have to be a job situation. Again, you can apply this to anything because you just have to recognize the situation that's making you feel like you're in a challenging space and ask yourself the same questions. And honestly, that should be everything I have to say. Like, for real. Because at the end of the day, if I'm trying to answer the question on how to recognize that patience to be true and continue to exude, it's all of these elements that I've recognized to be true within this situation that have been applied or have revealed themselves in others as well. And again, there can be more that is said. And I have no problem talking about this with another person. But this is the journey that I have been on and that I am continue walking. And the great thing, or the biggest part of the gap that a person cannot feel, FILL, within their patience is the day when everything switches. Because once that challenge season is over, it's over. So, what within that season of what you endured, what will it show on the surface level? Because it can be dark for however long. But once that light shines through, what is it going to reveal to you? And that is where I found myself creating the foundation of understanding for patience in general. Because, yeah, the patience part is frustrating, but it's also still developing you. It's still growing you. The patience is the aspect that either deters you away from or pushes you towards the finish you've been praying for. And I refuse to stop short. I done made it this far. Like, I'm here now. I'm in too deep to try to go back and to revert back away from the things that even got me here today. So the only way the only way to get through it is to take that step forward to it. So this is the patience that I know to be true and what I aim to exude, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I'm staying committed to the things that I'm supposed to while I'm on this earth. Whether somebody likes it or not, whether it makes sense to me or not. Every aspect of me can be fought. So patience is all I got. Because at the end of the day, either someone is going to have something positive or negative to say. But I find peace in knowing that the decisions that I make, whether it causes for challenging seasons, abundance, a little bit of everything, I know that I'm still doing what the God I recognize wants me to. And I don't know about you, but if there's an entity that is bigger than me, that understands the complexities of what's happening around me better than what I can see, I would rather put my faith in that entity and in the possibilities than putting everything on me. Because I know the world is going to basically try to kill that light in me. So if the world doesn't fuel it, I'm gonna go through whatever I have to, as long as I'm in alignment with the entity that gives the light to me. So, with that being said, that's pretty much everything I have to say, because I practice my patience every single day. And I wanted to be able to articulate what that patience looks like and in the reality of what I'm experiencing, because I can't sit here and say these aspects of yourself are supposed to inspire vulnerability without showing you too. So thank you again for the ones that have listened, especially for the ones that are aiming to grow in understanding and executing any of these principles. Kudos to you, because it's not an easy road. I'm living proof. So as time continues, we'll see. And you can believe me or you can do what you need to do. But this is how I think things through. So with that being said, I'm out of here. I've been done like to connect, and I see y'all. Peace.